with regards to illegal immigration. Issue number one, which is quite concerning to both Mark and I, is that we found out that the Border Patrol is using a secretive program to essentially spy on really everybody, right? It's anywhere in the country. They're using the license plate reader program. They're using that then to track driving behaviors and habits and locations that seem suspicious to them. If we're trying to track people who are criminally invading the country, they're coming here illegally, that's one thing. But they're looking at anybody who's got strategic or suspicious driving habits. What do you make of this? Are there civil rights violations involved in this? It certainly seems like this is a redo of the NSA spying and collecting everybody's data. And what authorizes them to do it?
Yeah, it's pretty concerning, and a lot of localities are pushing back. These are, automatic license plate readers, or ALPRs. You might hear about flock cameras. That's one of the companies that does this, and they're along the border, but throughout the interior of the country as well. And the problematic thing about these ALPRs is they capture people coming and going, and they don't, of course, just target people who are engaging in suspicious activity. They capture everybody's data, and there's a lot of information sharing amongst law enforcement agencies of people's data. And so there is a belief and a thought, and I agree with this, that it violates the Fourth Amendment right against search and seizure. And there's also a lack of transparency around what they deem suspicious activity. It could be just, a truck with a trailer on it that drives near the border or that takes a particular side road. And there's just a lot of evidence that these flock cameras, that any law enforcement agency can connect with this data, and it's being shared. And so it's really just any of us, all of our comings and goings are being tracked now, by Big Brother. And it's pretty, it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, we're talking about how 5 years ago, like tonight, we had edicts coming down from Governor Newsom about the who's essential, who's not in the first season of COVID. And think about this technology they're talking about now. Had they had that, maybe it was available then, but they didn't dare try it because people were being so compliant. It brings a whole different, the Big Brother aspect into where government could go having the technology. But it almost seems like the horse has left the barn on this. Is there any recourse? Are they going to say it's only about security? And maybe it is, but once the technology's in there and administrations change, who knows what they do with this information?
There is pushback and recourse, and it's going to be the local law enforcement aides, or actually the cities, the localities. Yeah. So it could be a city council ordinance, or it could be a state legislature that says we don't allow this type of surveillance in our region. And, where I live in Austin, there's a big pushback in a nearby town called San Marcos, where these are coming up for votes about, are we going to renew these contracts with the flock cameras? And then there's some stuff that happens where the cameras will continue to capture data after the locality pulls the contract. I mean, it's pretty bad, and I think that there's a lot of local activism that can happen for people who don't support this. There's a lot you can do locally with your city council or your mayor's office to try and get them to reject contracts like this.
Meanwhile, there's another twist about these new security measures being rolled out about border crossings. This would be on December 26th. And
Hold on, Mark. Before we go to the DNA thing, I have another question on the issue of the flock cameras. Yeah. I guess the question I want to ask, Kate, is what is the fundamental difference between what's happening here with these cameras and what might be happening with any other type of circuit cameras that we have pretty much everywhere, ubiquitous? I mean, it's part of society now to be watched every way we go. So is this just is people just upset about this because it involves illegal immigrants, or are people actually upset about this because it's a fundamental violation of privacy rights?
Well, I don't think it's true that law enforcement has access to our data anywhere we go. I mean, we do live in a world where everybody's got a cell phone on them, and everybody's got a Ring camera, and many street corners and alleyways have businesses have cameras that living your life, you are going to be recorded. What's different about these flock cameras is that they are capturing every single car driving by, and that data is uploaded and sold by these companies, for who knows what reasons, but that also any law enforcement, I shouldn't say any, many law enforcement agencies can connect to this data, and they can find out, where Mark's driving, where Leland's driving, where Kate's going, just because they want to just log into this database and figure it out. And so I think that is the difference. It's not that, it's the access by law enforcement, which is what raises the Fourth Amendment concerns.
So with that in mind, when we talk to our police chief, Scott Wall here, SDPD, and we talk about the flock cameras that are used, they hold the material, the information for 30 days, and it goes away. We don't necessarily have the same understanding. I mean, if you have local jurisdictions tell you that, it could be different with the Border Patrol doing this. Is that right? In terms of how long? Or they
definitely. I mean, and these are, we're using private companies too with this data. And so what are they doing with the data? Where are they sending it? How long is it being kept? I mean, I think all of that stuff. And what you were about to bring up, this December 26th policy, it's a similar concern. It's like, okay, we're capturing our biometric information, our coming and going, and then what? What's the privacy protection there, and how long is the stuff being stored on us?
Which brings us to this other twist, which is new news today, because, again, we're updating what we were talking about with this border camera thing and travel when you're driving. But apparently these new measures coming out on December 26th, travelers could have to hand over their DNA to cross the border. And they say, well, this is for non-citizens. If you're coming into airports and facial recognition, records can be held up to 75 years on this stuff. And the twist is, if you read the docs here, that it could force non-citizens to provide other personal information such as DNA or fingerprints. And again, does that go to everybody else at some point? With the, it's a little blood-curdling here. Or are we getting too weird? Like one of our listeners said, you guys are making a big deal about this. Are we?
I'm very concerned about this new policy. So to be clear, it goes into effect December 26th. So far, supposedly only applies to immigrants coming and going, and they will have facial recognition, maybe other biometrics, up to DNA collection on them that could be held, like you said, up to 75 years, like super, super invasive. And I think, the argument for tracking who's coming and going is obvious, right? We should know when people are coming and going, but we do not need that level of information, invasive information on people. It would be very easy for us to track who's leaving, who's flying out of the airport with flight lists and names and passports. So, I mean, the lowest form of problems that this is going to create is major flight delays for people. But, I'm sure it doesn't take too much of a stretch of the imagination to think about in what other times in history was there an authoritarian regime that did not allow people to leave freely? And where could that lead us? So it's the collection of data, how long it's being kept, the invasion of privacy, and what this means about are people going to be free? But actually, I'm more worried about free to leave than free to come, because there's already a lot of restrictions on who can come in. But what if somebody just wants to depart? Are we going to stop them, and instead of letting them leave, are we going to detain them?
Yeah, would that pertain only to people from other countries who have been here and going back, or does this go the other direction? Boy, there's a lot of chilling questions. The more we dig into this, the more questions we have, Leland, right? I mean, that's...
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess my question on this, Kate, is obviously right now it's saying that it's limited to non-citizens, and you mentioned the free to leave. I could see, California is getting ready to pass most likely a billionaire wealth tax, right? And a lot of states are trying to find ways to punish people who try to leave their states. What if it went to people that want to leave I mean, Rosie O'Donnell is camped out over in Ireland, and I may not agree with her politically, but I sure as hell support her right to get up and leave if she wants to, Is that what you're concerned about, is potentially politically keeping people here as maybe government gets more authoritarian and progresses along those lines?
Yeah, that's what I think about. Political dissidents, people who are speaking out against whomever is in charge. Are they going to be able to just leave, or are they going to be stopped? I think the next step, because they've announced this policy, just applies to immigrants. So the next step is immigrants who are leaving will experience potential flight delays and problems. But then it could be, okay, what if somebody is undocumented and they're hearing all these messages from Kristi Noem that you should self-deport, and they say, you know what, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to risk having my children taken from me. I'm going to leave the country. And they buy themselves a ticket and they go to the airport and they're with their family. And it's not too far of a stretch to say, okay, they're going to go through the system, and then someone's going to say, you know what, we think, you know, you've got a tattoo, you're a gang member, and we're going to take you, Dad, and we're going to put you over here, and you're going to be sent to, I don't know, a gulag in El Salvador, and mom and kids can leave. And because we suspect that you're a gang member, that's what we're going to do. Like, that is 2 small steps from where we are right now already. And so that's where my mind goes immediately. And then it's, you know, beyond that, as we see sort of this authoritarianism taking hold, how long does it take until that starts to apply to the citizens of this country as well? I don't know.
Chilling. Ugh. Well, more questions than we anticipated. we'll be in touch again, Kate. Appreciate you being with us. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration lawyer with a lot of things on the to-do list these days. Stay safe out there. Thank you much.